Bloodhunt is a refreshing take on the Battle Royale experience, the new kid on the block, looking to branch out the genre with playable vampire characters that hold powerful abilities. But does it do enough to differentiate from the crowd? Let's take a look. Recently released in April 2022, Bloodhunt is a free-to-play BR faring well on the Steam ratings so far. The premise is nothing too out of the ordinary. You start with no equipment, searching for better gear, taking down other players as you go, all whilst the map shrinks down in size, damaging anyone caught outside of it. Where it differs here is you play as vampires sporting various vampire abilities, like senses to detect nearby items, players or NPCs, as well as movement skills and close-range combat abilities. There's an emphasis on rotating between mainly city skyline level and street level when taking enemies on, with the option to wall climb literally anything. The action is incredibly fast-paced, and to me it sort of plays like a mixture of PUBG combat and feel, and the movement of a really old title called Guns. A lot of the movement defies how you would instinctively play, with the floaty characters, impactful movement abilities, and the close-to-hit scan-feeling gunfire. No matter if you're flying through the air or jumping off a building, it seems to be pinpoint aim regardless. You choose from a number of archetypes that give enough variety to vary gameplay and at least create some very distinctive playstyles in terms of what to expect when you see certain ones. We initially started with a sort of frontline and healer type combo, but found that due to the fairly quick time to kill, we eventually went for these Voldemort brothers who have a bit more of a deceptive and offensive playstyle and seem to suit us a bit better. Feel free to give us a like and thumbs up if you enjoyed the video, or even subscribe if you fancy seeing more of the same.
Bloodhunt is a third-person battle royale set across the streets and roofs of Prague. The world itself is one in which a war between vampires has begun to kick off, and players will take on the role of these vampires trying to survive the fighting between their own kind. The gas in this game that makes the map shrink over time is of course deadly vampire gas, and this gas and enemy players aren't the only dangers you're going to have to keep your eye out for. Because unlike most games in the genre, this game has hostile NPCs who will shoot you on sight, adding a nice little bit of complexity and something else to think about. There is a lot of commonality between Bloodhunt and its competitors in the BR genre, like the fact that you can play solo or in a party, and you have to go around gathering up weapons and gear to try and stay alive. But in this game you also have to keep your identity as a vampire hidden, because if you eat a human in front of another human and give yourself away, or you use an ability in front of a human and give yourself away, you become highlighted to other players. And being highlighted to other players for 30 seconds is a massive problem, and you'll just attract all the players around you going straight for your red glowing body. Right off the bat, we did think this game has a lot of potential. It had some nice innovations on a BR genre which, if we're honest, is becoming a little bit stale, and it has some really cool mechanics that create interesting fights. However, all of this doesn't really do enough to overcome the flaws in the way it feels, the simplicity, and the kind of weird jankiness that we felt while we were playing it. And with such a saturated and competitive market for these kind of games, it's really not clear to us if a player base will stick with it and keep it alive for the long haul. The gameplay itself is much the same as a lot of other Battle Royale games. You choose your spawn, you wait for the countdown, and then you go around collecting whatever you can find to help you survive against enemy players and NPCs. The equipment in this game itself is pretty bare bones. You have a moderate selection of weapons to choose from, each of which can come in various colours from green to gold, showing you the tier of the weapon you're using. These range from the standard things like rifles, shotgun, pistols, snipers, but you also have weirder weapons like crossbows and 9-barreled rifles, presumably because of the traditional vampire setting and feel. However, unlike many of its Battle Royale competitors, there's no customization of weapons in this game. There's no attachments and there's no real inventory system. You can have 2 main weapons, a melee weapon, a few healing items and some ammo, and that's about it. This simplicity isn't necessarily a bad thing because it allows you to focus on the other areas of the game. One of the cool things that we really did enjoy was the moving boundary. Ordinarily, Battle Royales have a shrinking circle that's relatively simple to predict. However, in Bloodhunt, there is no circle. You have to keep inside the boundary of a really weird shaped field of gas. And while this might sound straightforward on the face of it, actually the strange shape really does add some complexity that caught us out a number of times. Nex and I have played Battle Royales for years to the point where circle management is basically second nature. So seeing this innovation and it being something that you have to look out for is quite a nice little change to what we're used to. However, there are other innovations that make the game a little frustrating. For example, when you down a player, they have a chance to revive by themselves over time. and it's also pretty easy to revive a dead teammate. Single player adds lives to the gameplay, meaning that you'll be able to die more than once. All of this makes your kills feel a lot less impactful, because there's plenty of times and opportunities for players to come back. Even if you down an entire team, if one of them's sneaky and gets away in a down state, they can res themselves over time and then bring back the entire team. This can be a little frustrating and lends itself to having a high number of players in the end circle, making the end of the game a chaotic mess of crossfire and third partying. This can be frustrating, especially if you've played a great game up to that point. You could have got a bunch of kills, but then you have to contend with the insanity of the end zone. But this chaos, the ever-present third partying, and the quick fluid movement means that it's not uncommon to have to chain fights together with no real downtime. This fast-paced gameplay can be really enjoyable and needs you to think about when and where to heal, cover, and back off during engagements. This can be a very difficult thing to manage, and the mix of necessary awareness, chain fight management, and the lack of downtime or breathing space can be a bit much. To help you survive, there are a few mechanics that can help you out a little bit. Pressing X will scan the area, allowing you to see enemy players, different humans you can eat, and the location of noises and equipment. The scan also allows you to see different coloured humans, and these coloured ones will give you buffs depending on the colour. These buffs will stack and they're shown at the bottom left under your health bar. Regarding your character, there are some things going on that allow you to customize how you play and how you look. Different classes will give you access to various defensive, offensive, and supporting abilities, and these can really make or break your games depending on how you implement them. You also have the ability to customize your avatar with anything from gender, hair, skin color, and different clothing. This is a nice little addition to the game, and for people like me who put a lot of value into how your character looks, it was really nice to see. Finally, if we go into some gunplay, you really need to consider the weapons you use when you engage. Shotguns clearly are outclassed at range, and there are a number of automatic weapons that really don't lend themselves to medium and long ranges either. Overall, we felt the gunplay felt a bit like PUBG, but not quite as good. It's also worth noting in certain situations that the time to kill is very fast, and if someone's very close by with an automatic weapon, you really don't have that much time to react, so you really need to keep your wits about you and prevent those flanks and third parties.
As you can see, Bloodhunt does everything you might expect from a BR, and have even innovated in the current space to make something that really feels different. A blessing in an age of what seems to be copy-pasta development. Purely from a gameplay perspective, Bloodhunt is different enough to really challenge the BR scene. It's reeling with potential, which makes it worth playing if you want to try something new. However, in our opinion, it's not quite at where I expect even the developers would want it to be just yet. There is a level of polish not quite there with respect to the overall feel of the movement, some aspects of the gunplay, model animations, and most of all the level design, where there are just so many angles that getting third-partied can come out of nowhere, which can be a little bit frustrating. We found that there are some strange interactions around reloading too. Occasionally the weapon won't have reloaded, and other times an action may cancel the end of the reload, only to seemingly cancel just the animation. The disparity in damage between weapons is something we're still yet to get used to. It can feel like in some cases you're one shot out of nowhere, in others a lengthy battle where you get to utilise all the interesting items and disengage mechanics available. Being able to bring your teammates back into the game at certain locations is a great feature, as it keeps you invested in the game even when you're down and out due to the possibility of coming back. And it's things like this and the many other interesting features we've gone through that make Bloodhunt a really fun game to play, and we can't wait to see where it goes next. Let us know what you think of the game in the comments below, and we'll see you in the next one.